If I had to pick one word that defined the Christian circles I grew up in, it would be standards. We use that word constantly. Now, when a normal person who didn't grow up fundamentalist says standards, they usually mean something like, oh, I have a standard of I'm not going to buy the cheapest product out there, or maybe even I have boundaries in relationships. But when fundamentalists use the word, it's a dog whistle. It's really asking, how much are you willing to give up for the kingdom of God? It's costly signaling. Standards were all about what you did or didn't allow in your life. There were dress standards, especially for women. The length, the tightness, the fabric, the cost, the necklines, the sleeves, the front, the back, the list never ended. For men, suit and tie in church, probably a shirt at the beach. Music standards could range wildly depending on your circle. The song should have no cursing, maybe no rock music at all, no secular music, no Christian music that sounded secular, nothing with a beat, nothing with drums, nothing with syncopation. In some Christian spaces, they don't even want instruments, particularly in church worship. And the list just goes on and on with pretty much every topic possible. And here's the thing that took me a really long time to name. We judged people with less strict standards as less holy. They had not given up enough of the world, so clearly they were compromising. But here's the funny part. We also judged people with stricter standards than us. We called them too extreme, all law and no grace. And when we really wanted to shut down the conversation, Pharisee. So we needed friends on both sides of where we were. Stricter friends to feel challenged and like we needed to be pushed to become more spiritual. And then friends with looser standards so we could secretly feel better about ourselves. Standards weren't just personal choices for how you wanted to live life. They were discussions behind other people's backs. We judge someone's goodness, their holiness, sometimes even their salvation, and whether or not their kids would be safe to play around our kids based on what movies they watched, what music they listened to, or how they dressed. Families were labeled unsafe to hang around because they watched PG-13 movies. Churches were left because the pastor listened to Elvis on his private time. And whenever a new preacher came in for a revival or missions conference or what have you, if his standards were higher than ours, we suddenly felt guilty about the freedoms that we had been completely comfortable with just the week before. Families who loved Star Wars stopped watching it because a visiting preacher said his family didn't, and neither should you. Here's what I wish I had known back then. Different people have different likes, interests, and yes, even standards. That's fine. What is not fine is confusing strictness with holiness. Jesus' critique of the religious leaders of his day wasn't that they cared too much about obedience, it was that they made the good news inaccessible through endless red tape. If God says stay 5 feet from the edge, well, isn't 10 feet better? But God put the fence at 5 feet so you could both be safe and enjoy the view. Telling people to move farther back isn't additional holiness, it's actually saying blasphemy. You know better than God. And when children are raised in this mindset of sheltering them from anything that is deemed not holy enough, it fails. Higher standards do not equal deeper faith. If anything, they actually often reveal a misunderstanding of what God actually asks of people. Sometimes they function like religious OCD. It's called scrupulosity. It's where you add extra steps to feel holy when the relationship itself feels distant. Now, don't get me wrong, it is totally fine to have standards for yourself and your own life, but they are just that, for you. They are not meant to be imposed on others. Jesus didn't say people would know his followers by how much normal life they gave up. He said they would know them by their love. But love was never measured by how restrictive you are, but rather by how freely you reflected the grace that you had received.